Today we're looking at the idea that while eating in a caloric surplus may potentially sort of give you an advantage for short-term building muscle, that your long-term and overall muscle growth may actually be compromised by it. Welcome back to my channel, my friend. I'm Matt Schifferly with another video to help you be fit and live free. And this episode is piggybacking off of the latest episode of the RDP podcast, where I talked about the latest review of the research that showed that yes, body recomp is possible. You can build muscle and lose body fat at the same time. However, the more important lesson kind of got buried in that review a little bit that took me a few days to realize on why eating in a caloric surplus can actually be only 50-ish% effective for most people. Here's where I'm getting at with this. Basically, in the review, they talked about 3 caloric states that we would be in. In a caloric deficit, naturally, this is about losing body fat. You have more calories going out of your body than going into it. You're losing body fat, hopefully not losing much or too much muscle, and your chances of building muscle in a deficit naturally are slim to none. Then, of course, we have relative caloric balance. Now, there's never perfect caloric balance. We're always kind of teetering between a surplus and a deficit. But in relative caloric balance, your body fat levels stay relatively stable. And this is the state where in the review, they were talking about this is where recomp is possible. It's possible to lose fat, build muscle relatively at the same time. And this is the state that I've long championed and have been in myself, going from a 150-pound cardio junkie back in college to now being 200 pounds using calisthenics. I've built all that muscle without ever really going into much, if anything, of a caloric surplus, always maintaining relatively lean levels of body fat the whole time. And then naturally, of course, we have a caloric surplus. This is where you are consuming more calories than the body needs, including for the sake of building muscle, and those extra calories get stored as fat. Now, for the sake of easy math here, basically what they showed was that if you're in a deficit, slim to no chance of building muscle. So let's say you spend 6 months of the year in a deficit, you're not building anything. In the middle ground here, you are eating a good amount and you're not overfeeding yourself. So you can certainly build muscle here. Let's say for the sake of simplicity that you can build 2 pounds of muscle over 6 months here. And then in a surplus here, this is where you're definitely eating enough. You're not letting nutrition and caloric intake be a limiting factor. Of course, there's a hell of a lot more building muscle than just calories. However, when it comes to checking off that box, you're well checked off. So because you're always overfeeding yourself, you build 3 pounds of muscle in the surplus. So in the short term, it looks like the surplus is awfully the way to go. Like that's optimal, that's maximized and everything like that. But hold the phone, because when you're in the surplus, you're putting on body fat. The bigger the surplus, the more fat you're going to put on, which means you necessitate needing to go into a deficit. That basically means you necessitate and need to spend a significant amount of time having no chance of building muscle. And the bigger the surplus is, the more time you have to spend here. That's even if you can get it off to begin with. And the more times you go through this cycle, the harder it's going to be and the more time you're going to need to spend in the deficit because your body just naturally adapts to any attempts to losing body fat. So at the end of the year, even though you may have spent 6 months putting on 3 pounds versus 2 pounds, you're also hitting the brakes and saying, okay, 3 pounds, stop. I need to be in a deficit for a while. Meanwhile, the tortoise, compared to the surplus hare, keeps on trucking along and you can build muscle throughout the year. So at the end of the year, the surplus group was 3 pounds, but the relative maintenance group was 4 or even 5 pounds. Not to mention the fact that they never got overweight. They never put on a lot of body fat. They always had some semblance of abs, and they're always within shooting distance of getting pretty darn lean. Asking is like, Matt, this kind of sounds a little bro science and stuff. You're 100% right. You know, the 6-month time frame, the muscle build time frame, there's a lot of nuance I'm completely ignoring here. But the point I'm trying to make is that if our strategy for building muscle is we need to be in a surplus, which means we need to build body fat, that means you're also needing to spend a significant amount of time having little to no chance of building muscle. Versus if we go with something of a little bit more of a relative balance, you just spend a lot more time, in fact, potentially year round giving yourself the chance of building muscle. And when it comes to success in anything in life, but especially in fitness, a lot of times your success just boils down to how long can you play the game? Can you be in the game consistently? Can you be in the red zone more often? And if you spend more time with the chance of making something happen, you're going to, on average, make it happen a lot more than if you limit your time with that potential, because trying to maximize also holds you back. Again, I put links down below to the podcast, the Stronger by Science review, all the other resources down below if you want a deeper dive into this sort of thing. But like all my videos, I'm not saying don't be in a surplus or it's bad or anything like that. I'm just saying we got to question the necessity on things, because what gets us into trouble isn't the fact that we go into a surplus. It's the fact that we think it's necessary. And when we believe something is necessary, we come to depend on it. And that dependence shortens both your potential for results and your personal freedom of lifestyle and health and fitness. And recognizing that we may be better off without overfeeding ourselves can take a lot of that stress off of body, mind, and lifestyle while giving you the best chance long-term progress and success as well. Be fit, live free.